Hi students, today we are going to learn the sixth unit in the prose on the rule of the road. On the rule of the road. Who wrote this? A.G. Gardiner. Alfred George Gardiner was a British journalist and author. So he was a British writer. He was a prolific essayist, and his style and subject matter easily qualified him to be categorized as what the English would call a very civilized gentleman. So, why do the English call him a very civilized gentleman? What made them call him like that? Is style and subject matter. That only qualifies A.G. Gardiner to be called a very civilized gentleman by the English. His essays include on habits, on being tidy, on talk and talkers, on the rule of the road, which is one of the lessons we are looking at, was included in one of the Gardiner's compilations titled Leaves in the Wind. So the lesson we are learning is also or was also included in his compilation that was titled Leaves in the Wind and was published under his pseudonym Alpha of the Plough. Pseudonym means the other name, false name, the other name. Alpha of the Plough. Okay, let's move on to the glossary. Confusion is a mess. Peril, risk or danger. Pedestrians, persons who walk on the streets. They are the pedestrians. Chaos means a great confusion. Anarchy is lawlessness, without law, or rebellious rebellion, you can say. The next word is preserved, means maintained. Curtailed is reduced or shortened. Tyranny is autocracy. Insolence, rudeness. Interfere, hinder, make an obstacle. Contract is commitment. Indifferent, showing no interest or unconcerned. Fancy is desire. Shandy is lemonade. Ridiculous is comical. Conventional is a normal way. Accommodate is fitting in with. Consideration is scrutiny. Don't worry about these meanings. Then and there, when we come across these words, we'll come across these meanings also. Let's move on to the lesson. A stout old lady was walking with her basket down the middle of a street in Petrograd to the great confusion of the traffic and with no small peril to herself. So you can see an old lady carrying a basket. What she's doing, she was walking with her basket. Where? In the middle of the street, in one of the busiest place in Petrograd, and that caused great confusion of the traffic. But she had no small peril to herself. Peril means what? Risk. She is taking it very easy, causing great confusion to the traffic, but she doesn't feel that at all. It was pointed out to her that the pavement was the place for pedestrians, but she replied, I'm going to walk where I like. We've got liberty now. And she was pointed out to her that this is the place the pedestrian crossing, or you can see at the left here, the left side of the page, there they can move, no, they can walk without disturbing the traffic. But what did she say? She replied, I'm going to walk where I like. We have got liberty now. So what's the response from this response-less lady? She was not at all responsible. She's telling that she's going to walk wherever she likes because she has got liberty there. It did not occur to the dear old lady that if liberty entitled the pedestrian to walk down the middle of the road, then the end of such liberty would be universal chaos. What will happen if any individual uses his or her liberty instead of walking to the side of the road, leaving that pedestrian crossing or pedestrian walking and coming to the middle of the road? And if every person uses such liberty, that will end up in universal chaos, confusion. If a person says, I'm going to walk in the middle of the road, if the other girl says, if I'm going to walk in the middle of the road, and what would happen? That would cause a great confusion in the traffic. But this old lady was not at all minding about that confusion. Everybody would be getting in everybody else's way and nobody would get anywhere. See, if everyone is getting in everybody else's way, if I'm using my liberty to affect the liberty of other person, what would happen? What would happen? And I cannot go, or I will not leave others to go where they're supposed to go. They cannot go. We would be just held up in a place. Individual liberty would have become social lawlessness. Anarchy. Anarchy means what? Lawlessness. No, you can see here, anarchy is lawlessness. So individual liberty would have become social lawlessness. So there is a danger of the world getting liberty drunk in these days. Nowadays, people are using their individual liberty in such a way as this old lady. That's what the author is writing, like the old lady with the basket, and it is just as well to remind ourselves of what the rule of the road means. So when people are behaving like this old lady, we must know that, or we must be reminded ourselves of what the rule of the road really means. What is that? It means that in order that the liberties of all may be preserved, the liberties of everybody must be curtailed. So, what is the meaning of the rule of the road? Here, the author says, in order that the liberties of all may be preserved, to preserve the liberties of all the people, individual liberty, everyone's liberty must be shortened. What is the meaning of curtailed? Reduced or shortened. Just imagine when the policeman, say, at Piccadilly Circus, steps into the middle of the road and puts out his hand, he is a symbol not of tyranny, but of liberty. Just imagine a traffic police, as you see here, if he comes and steps into the middle of the road, and that's what a traffic police does. He stands in the middle of the road. Sometimes he allows a particular group of people to cross from different direction, and the other direction vehicles or passengers or pedestrians, they have to stop. And if he puts out his hand, he is a symbol not of tyranny, but of liberty. What's the meaning of tyranny? Tyranny means autocracy. Autocracy. We may think that he is taking control over our liberty. No. He is acting as a symbol of liberty there. You might think, why this person stops my vehicle? Why is he not allowing me to go? Why? Why he does that? Because if we stop sometime there, the other persons can go freely in the opposite direction. And the traffic police stops the other group of vehicles there and let us go, so that every vehicle coming from different direction can have a smooth way of transport. So we cannot call a traffic police just putting out his hand is a symbol of tyranny, but is a symbol of liberty. Okay. You may not think so. You may, being in a hurry and seeing your car pulled up by his insolence of office, feel that your liberty has been outraged. What is the meaning of insolence? Rudeness. You may not think so because you might be in a hurry and your car pulled up by his rudeness of office. You might feel that your liberty has been taken or outraged. How dare this fellow interfere with your free use of the public highway? That's what any person could think if you don't really understand what for he is standing and what symbol he resembles. That's the intention or attitude of so many people. This is what they say. How dare this fellow interfere with your free use of the public highway? This is the highway. I am paying my tax. I can go anytime. I cannot wait for the signal. No. If you are a reasonable person, you will reflect that if he did not interfere with you, he would interfere with no one. If he is not interfering, if he is not controlling your vehicle for some time, he cannot control any of the vehicles on the road. And the result would be that Piccadilly Circus would be a maelstrom that you would never cross at all. Without a traffic police, you might have experienced, if people try to just drive their vehicles, they would go nowhere. Because the opposite direction, the vehicle coming from the opposite direction, halts somewhere, and the other vehicle going in the other direction, everything would be full of chaos. No one could cross at all. Yes, it is sure. We have experienced, and we know that. That is what the author is asking us to reflect. Unless the traffic police interferes and controls, and for that we need to curtail our liberty, individual liberty. You have submitted to a curtailment of private liberty. Why? In order that you may enjoy a social order which makes your liberty a reality. Yes, my private liberty is reduced so that I may enjoy a social order. For some time, if I stop my vehicle, obeying the traffic police signals, I may enjoy a social order. Everything will be in order. After maybe 1 or 2 minutes, I will be allowed to cross the road or move on. That is the reality of liberty. That is the enjoyment of social order. If it is not so, it would be like a maelstrom. No? During this storm, there might be some confusions. So likewise, even in the traffic, there would be some confusion if we do not understand the rules of the road and how to use our individual liberty. Liberty is not a personal affair only, but a social contract. You must understand, liberty is not a personal affair only. It is personal to some extent, but it is not only personal affair, but a social contract. We must fit in the social contract in the society. It is an accommodation of interests. We have to accommodate, we have to give place of others' interests for social order. In matters which do not touch anybody else's liberty, of course, I may be as free as I like. I can be. If I choose to go down the road in a dressing gown, who shall say me nay? Just think of it. If a person wearing a gown, a boy wearing a dressing gown, who can say? They may laugh, but they cannot say you can't wear. You have liberty to laugh at me. If someone is laughing at me, yes, you have that liberty. But I have liberty to be indifferent to you. I will not at all consider your teasing or your laughing. I will show no interest. I will not respond to your action or gesture. And if I have a fancy for dyeing my hair or waxing my mush, or wearing an overcoat and sandals, or going to bed late or getting up early, I shall follow my fancy and ask no man's permission. If I'm going to dye my hair, I do not worry about the other person's interests. If I'm going to shave my mush, if I'm going to wear an overcoat, not with shoe but with sandal, I don't have any problem if other people take it otherwise. I may go to bed late or I get up early. I shall follow my fancy. And for that I need not ask any other man's permission. That's my own interest. That's my own kingdom. I am the ruler for my kingdom. Yes, to some extent we can enjoy the individual liberty. I shall not inquire of you whether I may eat mustard with my mutton, and you will not ask me whether you may follow this religion or that, whether you may prefer Ella Wheeler Wilcox to Wordsworth or Champion to Shandy. In all this and 1,000 other details, you and I please ourselves and as no one's leave. Here the author brings, I need not go and inquire whether I would like to have mutton with mustard or pepper, whatever it is, that's my interest. And you cannot force me to follow this religion, that's my liberty. You cannot come and tell me to prefer Ella Wheeler Wilcox to Wordsworth, that's none of your business. Or Champagne to Shandy. What is Shandy? Lemonade. You can see the picture there. That's my interest. Not only in these 4 things, but 1,000 other details, you and I please only myself and ourselves, or yourselves. And we need not take other man's permission at all. It is not necessary. We have a whole kingdom in which we rule alone, can do what we choose, be wise or ridiculous, harsh or easy, conventional or odd. So, in using our individual liberty to certain boundary, that is our kingdom. We can rule alone, and what we choose, it might be wise or it might be very silly, ridiculous. It may be harsh or easy, it may be normal or odd. It's my kingdom, I have all rights to choose that. But when we step out of that kingdom, our personal liberty of action becomes qualified by other people's liberty. But when I come out of the boundary, when I come out of my kingdom, if I come to the street, my personal liberty of action has to be qualified by other people's liberty. I have to acknowledge and I have to fit in with other people's liberty, and they have to fit in to my liberty to bring a social order. I might like to practice on the trombone from midnight till 3 in the morning.